Yo, what's good with y'all, man? So, this will be the first audio recording I do for one of my articles. And I've actually had this idea for a while, but I just never acted upon it. But now I'm taking that leap. So, hopefully, you guys like it. And if you do, let me know. So, this will be Hidden History Volume 6. And the title of the article is Demon Days. So, let's get into it, man. There shall not be found among you anyone who uses divination, one who practices witchcraft, or one who interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or one who casts a spell, or a medium, or spiritist, or one who calls up the dead. For whoever does these things is detestable to the Lord. Deuteronomy 18:10-13. So you guys already know, if you are in your Bible, how God feels about witchcraft. He hates it. He doesn't approve of it. There's no sugarcoating it. There's no justifying it. God does not like witchcraft. So continuing. For this article, I'm going to skip my usual artsy introductions and get straight to the point. Halloween is clearly a demonic holiday, and it's really not debatable. Throughout this article, we will explore the occultic origins of Halloween, proving once again that nearly all contemporary holidays are in reality demon days. So if you guys want to know a little bit more about the contemporary holidays that we celebrate, and a lot of them have a Christian aspect to them, you can actually check out some of my previous volumes in the Hidden History series. Up to this point, I've already done articles on Easter, Christmas, and Valentine's Day. And there will be more coming down the pike soon as, these holidays come back around and I'm able to do, an article about them. Samhain. If any of you have played Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you should be vaguely familiar with the Celts and Druids. The Celtics were an ancient pagan nation located in Central and Western Europe, and like all pagan nations, they were ruled by a group of demonic priests, aka witches. So I actually did play Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'm definitely not as big as a gamer as I used to be, but that was one of the few games I played in the past year, and I really loved it. I love the Assassin's Creed franchise too. I really love it, but I was gonna mention the occultic, esoteric undertone that I don't think a lot of people necessarily realize, or maybe they do. But basically, if you guys are familiar with Freemasonry, the entire Assassin's Creed universe is based off of the real world Freemasons. So in Masonry, they have a doctrine called Order out of Chaos, which is essentially where the powers that be, they create chaotic situations so that they can bring forth a preordained solution. And that's the same thing that the assassins do. So the assassins are the chaos bringers. They run around killing people, scaring people, so that the Templars can come in and provide, their preordained solution of order. Like, they bring order out of the chaos. And you see that same thing in movies like Star Wars, where the Sith and the Jedi are both all working together unknowingly for Palpatine, who's trying to implement his new world order. Kind of see the same thing in the real world with Freemasons, whether they're working through political parties like the Republicans and Democrats, but basically they're two horns on the same devil who are all working for one entity, and we know that entity is Lil Lucy. But anyway, it is through the Celts and their shamanic overlords that we find the origin of Halloween, rooted in a pagan festival called Samhain. I know that word is not pronounced how it looks. Trust me, I had the same reaction, but yes, it's pronounced Samhain. Halloween is one of the oldest holidays in the world. The spooky day associated with trick-or-treating and costumes originates from Samhain, a 3-day ancient Celtic pagan festival. In the Celtic culture, which dates back as early as 1200 BCE, Samhain was a celebration that marked the end of the summer and kicked off the Celtic New Year. Remember that Samhain was the beginning of the Celtic New Year, because that'll be important later on. The New Year signaled a time of death and rebirth, which was symbolic of the end of a bountiful harvest season and the beginning of a dark winter. During the 3-day celebration, it was believed that the barrier between humans and otherworldly spirits was broken. Also remember that. In the presence of otherworldly spirits, the Celts believed that priests could make accurate predictions about the future. During the festival, the Celts played tricks and pranks on one another and blamed them on mischievous fairies and spirits. Sacrifices of animals and crops were performed to appease Celtic deities. At the sacrificial bonfires, the Celts wore costumes, typically made from animal skins and heads, and attempted to read each other's fortunes. That's from sites.imsa.edu. And I also wanted to mention, so specifically for this article, I really wanted to do my due diligence in terms of my research and my sources. And while I was doing my research, I actually found this really cool site that it gives some parameters and guides for how to find good sources when you're doing historical essays and articles and things like that. So I'll probably link that article in the description just in case I have any other writers or historians or researchers out there who want to get the best sources that they can. But yeah, for this article, I really tried to find that needle in the haystack and find, the best sources that I possibly could. So yeah, and obviously I have a reference list, so if you guys want to go back and fact check it, you can easily do that. So we'll move on to trick or treat. The tradition of costumes and trick or treating all originate from the understanding of the Halloween season as a liminal period. A liminal period is a time where the spirit world and physical world merge, allowing various demonic entities to manifest. As already noted, Halloween was thought to be a night when mischievous and evil spirits roamed freely. As in modern poltergeist lore, mischievous spirits could play tricks on the living, so it was advantageous to hide from them by wearing costumes. Masks and costumes were worn to either scare away the ghosts or to keep from being recognized by them. Halloween masks and costumes were used to hide one's attendance at pagan festivals, or as in traditional shamanism and other forms of animism, to change the personality of the wearer to allow for communication with the spirit world. Here, costumes could be worn to ward off evil spirits. On the other hand, the costume wearer might use a mask to try to attract and absorb the power of the animal represented by the mask and costume worn. According to this scenario, Halloween costumes may have originated with the Celtic Druid ceremonial participants, who wore animal heads and skins to acquire the strength of a particular animal. So we see basically that the tradition of Halloween costumes originates from, as I said before, the Halloween season as a liminal period where they believe that demonic entities can manifest. And when these entities did manifest and they began to terrorize people, the Celts responded by trying to camouflage and blend in with these entities by wearing costumes. So that's actually where the tradition of Halloween costumes comes from. So moving on, we'll talk about trick-or-treating next. There's much debate around the origins of trick-or-treating, but generally there are 3 theories. The first theory suggests that during Samhain, Celtic people would leave food out to appease the spirits traveling the earth at night. Over time, people began to dress as these unearthly beings in exchange for similar offerings of food and drink. The second theory speculates that the candy boon stems from the Scottish practice of guising, which is a secular version of souling. During the Middle Ages, generally children and poor adults would collect food and money from local homes in return for prayers for the dead on All Souls Day. Guisers dropped the prayers in favor of non-religious practices with inclusion of songs, jokes, and other tricks. A third theory argues that modern American trick-or-treating stems from Belschnickeling, a German-American Christmas tradition where children would dress in costume and then call on their neighbors to see if the adults could guess the identities of the disguised. In one version of the practice, the children were rewarded with food or other treats if no one could identify them. And that's from LOC.gov. Shout out to the Library of Congress. Personally, my money is on the first theory, but regardless of the origin, the energy behind the practice remains consistent. When children wear costumes and go scavenging for candy, they are literally embodying and invoking demonic entities, serving as physical representations of tormented spirits. So again, we see, like I said, my money is on the first theory where during Samhain, the Celtic people would leave out tricks and they would leave out treats to appease the spirits so they wouldn't trick and, deceive and haunt them. So we see that both of these main traditions, these staples of Halloween, of costumes and trick-or-treating, all originate from the Celts and their belief that if you didn't play along, then you would be haunted and that you would be oppressed by these evil entities that they claimed were roaming the nights. So next we'll get on to the next section, Days of the Dead. The liminal period of October 31st through November 2nd were and still are extremely important in pagan circles. This is why we see this time period being celebrated by different cultures around the world, yet retaining the same rituals and themes. So if any of you guys look up this topic on your own, you'll see that a lot of the opposition, it states that Halloween and the Halloween traditions, they have Christian origins, really Catholic origins, and that's not the case. But I wanted to do this section to show how this time period was celebrated by various different cultures around the world who seemingly have no, connection to each other, yet they still retain these same rituals and themes, which shows that there is far more than meets the eye to, this little fun holiday. But anyway, so we'll start with the Day of the Dead. Shout out to Coco, man. That was a good movie. I really liked that movie. I think I saw it in theaters too. But anyway, if you took Spanish class at some point in your academic career or have any understanding of Mesoamerican culture, you should be familiar with the Day of the Dead. The Day of the Dead, El Dia de los Muertos, is a Mexican holiday where families welcome back the souls of their deceased relatives for a brief reunion that includes food, drink, and celebration. A blend of Mesoamerican ritual, European religion, and Spanish culture, the holiday is celebrated each year from October 31st to November 2nd. So we see that it's celebrated during the same time as Halloween. Anyway, while October 31st is Halloween, November 2nd is All Souls Day or the Day of the Dead. According to tradition, the gates of heaven are opened at midnight on October 31st, really November 1st, because October 31st on midnight is November 1st. But anyway, and the spirits of children can rejoin their families for 24 hours. The spirits of adults can do the same on November 2nd. On the Day of the Dead, it's believed that the border between the spirit world and the real world dissolve. Just like Samhain, right? During this brief period, the souls of the dead awaken and return to the living world to feast, drink, dance, and play music with their loved ones. In turn, the living family members treat the deceased as honored guests in their celebrations and leave the deceased's favorite foods and other offerings at grave sites or on the ofrendas built in their homes. And this is from history.com. So back to what I was saying earlier about like my sources. So on the website, and you'll probably know this already, like history.com isn't the most reliable source because that platform is run by TV producers. And if any of y'all have like seen the History Channel, they're the same people who, you know, make documentaries about white Egyptians and things like that. But if you do your, basically you just have to do your due diligence. You know, you have to fact check what they say with, you know, other sources, as many other sources as you can find. And with this article, and me having an understanding of Day of the Dead already, I felt like this was a good description of it. And if it's not, if any of you guys like have more knowledge than me on this or you want to refute it, then, you know, leave it in the comment section. And also please provide a reference. But yeah, I don't have an agenda. I'm just trying to spread as much information as I can. Is it all by chance? Oh. Or is the Day of the Dead another example of the Halloween season having a deep spiritual significance throughout all pagan cultures of the world? Let me know what y'all think, man. So next we'll move on to the Diwali, which is the Hindu festival. The Hindu Diwali occurs about the same time as Samhain. Diwali marks the Hindu New Year just as Samhain marks the Celtic New Year. So we see that same theme of like this period representing a time of rebirth, a new year, a time of transition. And so yeah, moving on. Diwali is a festival of lights that celebrates the triumph of light over dark and good over evil, and the blessings of victory, freedom, and enlightenment. Diwali occurs annually in autumn during the Hindu month of Kartik. To put it in Western terms, Kartik begins around mid-October and ends in mid-November. Specifically, Diwali occurs on the darkest day of the lunar month, which is the day of the new moon. That's via almanac.com. So if any of you guys do research on pagan cultures and a lot of these pagan holidays, you'll see that they're based off of celestial bodies. They're based off of lunar cycles or solstices or things like that. And that's because these pagan cultures, they practice astrology, which is a form of witchcraft. It's a form of divination where they believe that they can watch the planets and gain insight into the future or other people's destinies based on, you know, the stars or planetary movements, etc. But basically any holiday that is based off of like astrology is pagan. And it's also, you see that same thing in Easter. But you can go read about my Easter article if you want to know more about that. But I said that to say, so when you see this chart, you'll see that like the days are all over the place. Like every year it starts on like a completely different day. But you'll see in 2024, the day actually starts on November 1st. So you see that it's still like, that time period is still important. It's just that for them, they personally base their cycle off of, you know, the new moon or the, you know, the lunar cycle. Could it be that Diwali and Samhain have a common root in antiquity? I don't know, man. I think so. But anyway, All Saints / All Souls Day. As Christianity gained a foothold in pagan communities, church leaders attempted to reframe Samhain as a Christian celebration. And we've seen that theme multiple times throughout the Catholic Church's specifically existence through things like Valentine's Day. like Christmas, like Easter, where they Christianize these pagan holidays, but they're all pagan. So let me read that again. As Christianity gained a foothold in pagan communities, church leaders attempted to reframe Samhain as a Christian celebration. These manifested in the modern day traditions of All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day celebrated on November 1st and 2nd. Neither new holiday did away with the pagan aspects of the celebration. The Samhain festival remained unchanged until the Roman Empire invaded the Celtic territories in 43 AD. Then, Samhain was reframed as a Christian celebration in an attempt to capitalize on the festival's popularity, helping to spread Christianity, allegedly. On May 13th, 609 CE, Pope Boniface IV announced a new celebration called All Saints' Day or All Hallows Hallowmas. All Saints' Day was celebrated similarly to Samhain. Bonfires were held, and people dressed up in costumes reflecting the otherworldly. And May is also like a very important time period. It was for the Celtics especially, but for all pagan nations. If y'all have heard of a time called Beltane, you can look it up. But the month of May is kind of like the reverse version of like the Halloween season in October. It's basically like the beginning of the summer, and just like how like Halloween is the beginning of like the winter. Beltane is basically the beginning of like the light half of the year, and Halloween is the beginning of the dark half. But I'll probably do an article about Beltane in the near future, but it's also a pagan fire festival celebration. And that's from same site from earlier, sites.eamsa.edu. So like I said, notice that All Saints' Day was originally celebrated in May. Yet, by chance, the celebration was moved to November 1st, perfectly coinciding with Samhain. What a coincidence, man. In the mid-8th century, Pope Gregory strategically moved the celebration to November 1st, coinciding with the time Samhain would have typically been held. The homage paid to martyrs and saints who passed closely paralleled the appeasement of ghosts of the dead during Samhain. The church's capitalization on Samhain traditions didn't end there, however. The pagan turned Christian practices of dressing up in costume, playing pranks, and handing out offerings have evolved into popular traditions even for those who may not believe in otherworldly spirits or saints. However, whether Halloween celebrants know it or not, they're following the legacy of the ancient Celts. And that's from time.com. So let me just say this let me say this first. Believe it or not, the Catholic Church is actually filled with witches and Satanists. This is why they embrace so many pagan holidays and anti-biblical rituals. So you see, like I said, and it's really the Catholic Church. And I know that was a very hyperbolic statement. I know a lot of people are probably going to go crazy about that. But if you do research about the Catholic Church, they're basically another pagan organization. But instead of saying the names of like their real gods like Isis, Horus, and Osiris, they basically replace them with Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Jesus, Mary, and the Most High. So they essentially wear the Bible as a mask. They use the Bible to cover up their pagan practices. Really, if you really want to go there, to lead people away from the Bible, because like I said, these people are Satanists. Like, they're really against the Most High and his teaching. So they bastardize his book and his holiness. And but that's a whole nother article for another day. I don't want to get too deep into that. So just wait on it. I also have a lot of books that you can use to read about that Catholic Church. One of them, just off the top of my dome, is The Two Babylons by Alexander Hislop. So make sure y'all look that up, The Two Babylons. So next we'll continue on. Be a light. This holiday is the most important day of the year for Wiccans, Satanists, and occultists. Many unsuspecting kids are literally walking into witch covens, taking cursed candy, and embodying demonic entities. This holiday is anti-biblical and one of the most overt examples of how the entire world has been fooled into worshiping Satan. While Halloween is undoubtedly demonic, I don't believe in spreading fear and condemnation. I believe in spreading awareness and knowledge. You can do whatever you want on this day, but I personally believe there are far more effective ways to worship the Most High than wearing demonic costumes and scavenging for candy. I want to spend this time doing exactly what I'm doing now, spreading information and trying my hardest to bear my cross and lead people to Christ. Whatever you decide to do on this day, make sure you're glorifying God. So like I said, I'm not here to tell y'all what to do. Like, I've never been that type of channel. Like, I can only provide my perspective and my opinion as a man and, as a researcher, as a, pseudo historian. So But for me, and like, for my conscience and for my conviction, I feel like there are a lot better things that I could be doing on Halloween than, like I said, like worshiping. And honestly, most of these holidays, like for men, it should really be a lot easier for you to like give up this stuff unless like you have a feminine spirit, because now that we're at this age, like I'm 22, and most of the people who celebrate these holidays, like these holidays are mostly for women and children. And like I said in the Valentine's Day article, is like a finesse. It's a commercial. Like all these holidays have a commercial aspect. But especially when you see like on Halloween, who do you see wearing Halloween costumes? You see kids and women. It don't matter how old they are, especially women my age, like in college, fresh out of college, be going to Halloween parties, wearing costumes, doing all that, wickedness. So as a man, you got to be a leader. You got to put your foot down and not go along with the buffoonery, the hogwash, and just leave that alone, bro. Leave it in the past. Like, you can do other stuff, bro, besides like going to a Halloween party. And don't get me, like, I really love Halloween. Like, I have so many fond memories of this time period, going trick-or-treating with my friends, like my Spider-Man costumes. Like, I just really love this time of year. And I'm from Ohio, so it's always super beautiful. We got a whole bunch of pumpkin patches and apple orchards out here, and it's like a really fun time period out here, like for real. Like, I really love it. Like, it's honestly, before I guess I was awakened, it was my second favorite holiday behind Christmas. But it's so clearly demonic. Like, you can't even, like, it's just not, I can't do it anymore. And also I'm kind of holding myself accountable by like releasing this information, because now like people are looking at me whether they want to admit it or not, and they want to see me fall. And I don't want to be labeled as a hypocrite. I don't want to be somebody who doesn't practice what I preach. I want to be a man of my word, and I want to trust God. And I know that whatever God has for me, his blessings will far outweigh the fun I'll have getting drunk at a Halloween party, wearing a mask, running around after some girl with devil horns on her head and a bunch of makeup on. Like, come on now. But anyway, so something I like to do at the end of these articles is to provide a short summary of a few key points, because I know that these articles are pretty long. They're really not that long, but they're kind of long. And this video is probably going to be pretty long. And I know that I said a lot of information. So if you don't take anything else from this video, just try to remember these 3 key points. So the first one says, the earliest origins of Halloween date back to the ancient Druid festival of Samhain. Samhain was the origin for most of the Halloween customs we follow today, including costumes and trick-or-treating. The second point says the period of October 31st to November 2nd is a time of increased spiritual activity known as a liminal period. Pagans believe that a liminal period occurs when the spirit and physical world merge, allowing various demonic entities to manifest. And the third point says that various pagan cultures around the world celebrate this time period with the same rituals and themes, proving that Halloween is not Christian in origin, but is in fact rooted in witchcraft, sorcery, and paganism. So like I said, if y'all don't take anything else from this article, please just remember those 3 key points, because they kind of summarize everything that we just talked about. And I'm gonna be releasing a lot more articles. I got a lot more information coming down the pike. So yeah, stay tuned, man. And also, I wanted to go over my references real quick. So I really want you guys to watch this video, this first video. It says, take it from someone who used to celebrate Halloween. It's a bad idea. I think I memorized like the whole video title. But basically, this video involves an ex-Satanist who used to do witchcraft rituals and all this crazy demonic stuff on Halloween. And he was like, that's where I learned about how there are witches, who are in plain disguise living in regular houses, but they're putting hexes and curses on the candy and casting spells on that night, playing with Ouija boards in the basement, sacrificing animals, doing all types of crazy stuff. And that's also something like, I don't think people understand like how pervasive and how real like witchcraft is. Like those movies like The Conjuring and like Sinister and all these, like the Annabelle, like people really do stuff like that, bro. Like people really practice witchcraft. People really cast spells and do spirit cooking and commit sacrifices. Like people really do that. Like it's not a joke. It's not a game. Like, but anyway, think it's a game. Anyway, shout out to Q Money, man. But the second video is from my favorite, well, he's not my favorite, one of my favorite content creators of all time, Truth Unedited. And you'll see, and he does a lot of the same stuff as me. He has a great series called The History of Religion. And that was one of the places where I first learned about Nimrod, Semiramis, and Cush, and Tammuz. But anyway, you'll see in this thumbnail that he has a lot of the same things that I talked about the Druids, the costumes, the Catholic Church through All Saints and All Souls Day, the Day of the Dead, and Mesoamerican culture. And he is doing great things. I really love his channel, and I would highly recommend that you go check him out. He is actually like one of the inspirations for where I got like my hidden history series from. And he talks about all types of, 3D stuff, about the Freemasons, about the Boule, about, the Black Israelites, so-called Black Israelites, about the satanic holidays, about CERN, the government, the economic system. He has a great channel, a great channel, and I would recommend him highly to each and every one of you. So go check him out, man. So on top of this video, I recommend you go watch these 2 videos as well. And then these are the rest of the sites that I used. So yeah, hopefully you guys liked this article. Like I said, this is the first time I ever did an audio recording for one of my articles. And originally I was gonna do like this AI voiceover where it was just gonna read it for me. But I was recommended to read it in my own voice because they just wanted to hear it in my voice and they wanted me to provide more commentary. So I did that. So like I said, hopefully you guys like it. If you do like it, let me know and I will make sure to focus on, more content like this. But I appreciate y'all for listening, man. Like honestly, thank you. And yeah.